Pastor Justin Baldwin with the Harbor Church. Thanks for being here, Justin. And after Pastor's done, we'll say the pledges.
Please pray with me. I'll speak aloud. Father, Lord, you are in heaven. You are mighty. Lord, you told us to ask you, Lord, hallowed be your name. Let us know who you are, God, your holiness. Lord, we want, more than anything, God, we want your kingdom to come and your will to be done. And we ask for that specifically in this meeting and this time together. Lord, you know what we need. You know where, especially, we may need wisdom for decisions that are going to be made tonight. And so we just want to place ourselves before you and trust you to lead us. Lord, thank you that you are our provider and you are our good Father. And we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thanks, Pastor. Item 4 is council comments and reports. Anyone? Councilmember Rocky?
Yeah, the library has a local singer, song writer that's going to be there. I think it's Thursday night. Yeah, and thank you, Council.
I got some memos.
You guys. I'm trying to figure out if I got exactly who the name is, but there's a here it is, Tucker Hart. So Tucker Hart will be performing a free show at the Friendswood Library this Thursday at 7 p.m. He performs country and rock music at venues throughout the area, and he's a singer and a songwriter and lives around here.
I have several. Fair warning. First, I wanted to let y'all know HGC has actually 2 actions that are out there that are open for public comment. The first one is our regional transportation plan, which is an update for 2045. I know that sounds like a long way out, but believe me, it takes 20 years to get these things planned. But also, you can, we also received, and I know Samantha may give a report, I don't want to steal her thunder, but Friendswood did get an allocation on the preliminary Council of Governments method of distribution, which the GLO approved us for. So I know Murad has already commented on that, but I want to let y'all know that maybe there's some money out there for us for the flooding. Would be great. Also want to let you know, changing gears now to CEDC, we are interviewing volunteers we have 1 opening. Hopefully we'll have a recommendation for y'all come August. I want to thank PD, Fire, EMS, Fire Marshal's Office. I was able to attend phase 2 of the active shooter training over at the new junior, I still call it the new junior high, sorry, the junior high. And that was just an amazing, I was only there for a couple of hours, but I was just amazed at the coordination, the communication. It was very, very impressive. So if you ever are invited, have the opportunity to attend any portion of that, I would highly recommend it to you. It's going to give you a peace of mind for me, but I also just wanted to know, what our officers are facing with a situation like that, were to ever come to Friendswood, which I hope it never does, but I'd say that we are very well prepared for that. Also, got a chance to go down Clear Creek in a boat. I'd never done that before, and that was really cool. And it was just to make sure the boats are working, of course, but Clear Creek looks awesome, and there's a lot of great work that has occurred down Clear Creek, so if you ever get a chance to go down Clear Creek, paddle your way down, it's really awesome. I wanted to say, and I saw James walk in, but I know it wasn't just James. You had a few people helping you. But 4th of July was really awesome. Thank you. I know there's an incredible amount of work that goes behind that for an incredible length of time, and I just want to say thank you for that. And then last but not least, Friendswood Historical Society is looking for docents, and we're offering some training. There are applications at the library and also at the senior activity building, but if you're interested, you can reach out to Steve or myself, or you can pick up an application at the library or the senior activity building, and we would love to help train you on our Friendswood history. We actually have an introductory training that'll be occurring at the library this Wednesday at 5 o'clock. So if you don't get a chance to get your app in before then, show up and we'll spend about an hour, and then you can make sure it's what you really want to do. And then there's some additional training at each of our museums. So that's it.
So I want to start off by saying thank you to our Parks Department. I don't see James back here, but, oh, there he is. Okay, hi, James. And it was an incredible day and night program. And thanks to all the city staff and all the volunteers on the 4th of July committee that actually work for a year to get ready for that one day. And so thank you. It's always the best. And it was really nice this year as well. It was a little too hot. If you could do something about that next year, that would be appreciated. But other than that, it was great. And KFB, thanks for being here in force tonight. I love it with your red shirts. That's great. And congratulations on your grant that you got. And I know we'll hear more about it tonight. And then also, I'm attending a meeting tomorrow with one of the Friendswood Police Department with Bay Area Houston on human trafficking and how we might be able to raise the awareness of that in our communities and what we might be able to do to stop that horrible thing from happening.
Mayor, I really don't have anything. Just want to congratulate Parks and Rec on a great job for the 4th of July. And we had our workshop for our 5-year plan this last Saturday, and that is a public meeting. So if you ever want to attend those, come on out, because we're discussing what is going to be coming up here for the next 3, 4, 5 years and trying to figure out how we're going to pay for it. And Katina and her team were there. They did a great job explaining everything to us. We're very fortunate to have them in our financing. So great job last Saturday. I'm sorry I had to leave early, but I had some things I had to do too. But thank you.
Brent.
I've got a letter I wanted to share with everybody from Bob and Gage Smither after William Reese pleaded guilty a couple weeks ago. It says, a letter of gratitude to the Friendswood Police Department and the city of Friendswood. 25 years ago, on April 3rd, 1997, our precious daughter, Laura Kate Smither, went missing. For 17 days, the citizens of Friendswood and surrounding towns and communities helped our family search for her until her remains were recovered on April 20th. She had been abducted and murdered. The Friendswood Police Department then had the daunting task of finding the person responsible for her death. They worked tirelessly for 25 years to bring her perpetuator to justice. Many thousands of leads were followed and all suspects were thoroughly investigated. A long list of names would comprise all the people who worked on Laura's case over the years, and each and every one of their contributions were integral to solving the case. We have tremendous gratitude for all these individuals who worked so tirelessly on Laura's case. In 2015, a decision was made to bring in the expertise of a Texas Ranger, and arrangements were made for him to re-interview the prime suspect in Laura's case. What unfolded was truly extraordinary and exemplary law enforcement work. With patience, persistence, and perseverance, the Friendswood Police Department coordinated massive digs for the remains of 2 other missing girls, and their remains were recovered. Jessica Kane and Kelly Cox have been missing for 19 years. And through the excellent work of the Friendswood Police Department, their families finally had answers. There are simply no words to describe what families live through when their child remains missing. It is truly the worst darkness there is. We wish to publicly thank the Friendswood Police Department for bringing resolution to the Kane and Cox families as well as our own. Beyond this, with the help of the Texas Ranger, confessions to the murders of our daughter, Laura Smither, Jessica Kane, Kelly Cox, and an Oklahoma victim, Tiffany Johnson, were elicited from the suspect. These confessions ultimately led to the death penalty being imposed on the suspect in the Tiffany Johnson case and guilty pleas given for Laura, Jessica, and Kelly. William Lewis Reese was finally held accountable for his actions in courtrooms in Galveston and Brazoria counties on June 29, 2022. The Friendswood Police Department never gave up. Their work and their dedication to Laura's case solved Laura's murder and brought resolution in 3 other cases as well. We applaud the tenacity and dedication of our law enforcement with our deepest gratitude for everything they did. For all our families, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. The city of Friendswood, in turn, gave their full support to the Friendswood Police Department, and we are deeply grateful for all the resources that were allocated over these 25 years to allow the department to continue working to bring justice for Laura. Our family thanks you all, the community who helped us, the city that provided necessary funds, and the Friendswood Police Department, past, present, officers included. We are eternally grateful. From our hearts to yours, thank you, the Smither family.
Yeah, thanks for reading that, Brent. That's great. Let's all of us keep the Smithers and the other victims in our hearts and prayers as they try to close this chapter. It's hard. It's hard to follow Sally and Trish because they cover just about everything that could possibly be going on. I'll also extend my gratitude to James Toney and the Parks and Rec team for a job well done. Thank you, Michael Boyette. I know you're really the cog that keeps it all going. You should nod your head. No. All right. Public comment. In order to comply with the provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Act, the City Council may not deliberate any item not listed on the agenda. As such, the City Council will listen to public comment and may, 1, refer the item to City Management for further action, or 2, direct staff for the placement of said item on a future agenda. During public comment, the public shall refrain from any outbursts or interjections, including but not limited to applause, disparaging noises, and remarks. Furthermore, any personnel complaints against a city employee aside from the city manager, city attorney, or municipal judge shall not be discussed and shall be referred to city management. I have a few cards here. Phil Radiso. We got Phil, Connie, and then Jason.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My concern is, are we setting a precedent with one city committee going to the Economic Development Corporation and asking them to fund a project for them? Even though it is within the scope of the Downtown Economic Development Corporation, is that what we want to do? And y'all decide that, but we all need to know that. The other thing is that is a project in this area that it's going into is so much public view and so much concern about parking around Stevenson Park. People want to have input on that, and before we spend money on designing something and a plan, I think we need to get a lot more community input on that than what we have before we expend funds. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Connie Radiso, same address.
Mayor, Council, thank you. Yeah, when I let him in. We have some issues with transparency that I just wanted to go over real quick, and I'm hoping we can get them fixed and us all get back on track again. First of all, our web link, public records access, is pretty much useless right now. Tons of information is either simply not there, folders that are there are empty, there is no historical data, or the information contained is very vague and of no use. I'm not sure what happened, but I'm hoping that we can get that fixed. As part of that, I believe that our minutes should contain all pertinent information, such as suggestions, discussions, votes, who, when, and why. I also believe that before any minutes are ever approved, I'm hoping that they're at least read by those voting. Some of these minutes I've seen are, again, useless. Lastly, I understand you are voting maybe after the fact for expenditures that have been made with the contract between KFB and FDEDC. It's very concerning that people think that it might be okay for city business to be conducted this way, and I'm hoping that we can move past this and get business done the way it's supposed to be done. Ask for permission rather than asking after the fact. I encourage a vote of no, and I ask that you at least discuss whether or not Mayor Mike should recuse himself from the vote. As for the design being considered, I know some people want to hide the bumpers, but with the amount of break-ins we experience in this park, I don't think that's the best idea. We need the parking and we need the visibility. I'm not opposed to making plans for future improvements. I just think it deserves discussion, communications with, and input from the citizens. I do not believe now is the time to commit money towards this project. Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. Jason Jones.
Good evening, everyone. In lieu of the title addressing, I would just like first, as part of my comments, to say thank you for all that you do. Whether this is a volunteer position or this is what you do for employment, you generally suffer the slings and arrows of the public without saying anything, and I'm sure thanks are often in short supply. So thank you. I wanted to talk about the parking lot as well. I know that having something be aesthetically pleasing is a good thing. For me, functionality generally wins over. I would like for you to consider keeping this as is, unless you were to make it a little easier to park. The middle section's pretty awkward. For me, revisiting certain topics over and over and over again, much as with the alcohol debate, your not as much your words, but your passion on the alcohol debate really stuck with me, because it's how many times can we talk about the same thing? So I would hope that with this issue, we remain it as a parking lot, and like Connie suggested, in the future revisit it with other changes. But for as unhappy as people were with tearing down the fire station, people really like having all this extra parking space. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jason. Item 6, committees or special reports. Receive the West Ranch Management District Annual Report.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
Joe, Meredith. Thank you first for your service on the West Ranch Management District. We really appreciate you having our
You're welcome.
coverage there, so thank you.
As you said, this is an update, our annual update of the West Ranch Management District. I wanted to start out with the first slide that's up there, indicating, just as a reminder, there are 5 board members. First 2, Brian Gibson, Sawyer Blackburn, were nominated by Friendswood Development to be on the board. Then there's Doug Canapa, secretary. He is actually originally nominated by the West family for that board. And then there's Meredith and I. Meredith Levine to my left, and I, Joe Matranga, were nominated by you guys. And we represent the homeowners in West Ranch and the city of Friendswood. With that, just really quickly, I'll go through just the background just to ground everybody. Friendswood map is located on the left side, outlined in yellow, with the red inset showing where West Ranch is located. On the right is a little bit zoomed in further, showing the development of West Ranch. And then drilling down just one more step, I'll use this diagram to kind of talk from. Development for residences is complete. So we've moved on from that. A little over 1,250 homes in West Ranch. And as I think you all know, I know you know very well, the new Klein Elementary School construction has already started with Friendswood ISD, but it's located within the district, surrounded by the district. And the only thing left to do development-wise is the commercial development. You can see those developments in red shown up there, and I'll talk a little bit more about those at the very end, but that's the remaining. Other thing I wanted to call attention to is you can see the thoroughfares with the green going through the subdivisions. Those thoroughfares and some of the entrances are all owned and maintained by the HOA. However, the detention ponds, retention ponds are continuing to be owned and managed by West Ranch Management District, and also all the property along Chigger and Clear Creek. So West Ranch, as you can see, stretches all the way, as you know, from Chigger Creek all the way back to Friendswood Parkway and Lake Friendswood. So it runs both sides of 518. So drilling further one more level, what does it really mean to the homeowners in West Ranch? And this, I got a lot of numbers up there, but I'll focus you on the very top line, 2021. where West Ranch Management District had a total assessed value, a little over $695 million of assessed values, meaning homes and property that's in West Ranch, and the total tax rate of 0.3685 per $100 of valuation. And you can see the big drop from 2020 to 2021. And it's not just because of the change in valuations. We on the board, all five board members voted unanimously to lower the tax rate, and we lowered it enough approximately for the average home within West Ranch to drop their tax burden within West Ranch to by around $500 per homeowner. And all that tax money is used for paying back the development of the roads, the infrastructure, the drainage. All of that was done with bond money at the time. And we're continuing to pay down that debt and continuing to look at opportunities to actually even retire some of those bonds where it makes sense. And I'll talk about that just briefly at the very end. But I think the board did a good thing here for the homeowners in West Ranch that are paying for that development of West Ranch. So one of the things that we use the money for that we bring in is on drainage projects within West Ranch. So we spent last year a little over over the last 3 years, sorry, a little over $105,000 over and above just normal mowing and keeping things looking nice on drainage on West Ranch property. We did things like re-sculpting some of the outfalls and making sure that the detention basins were groomed properly. And we see actually some more of that coming. As this development ages, we think we're going to see some more of those kind of costs. But we're continuing to take it very seriously to maintain the drainage aspects of the West Ranch Management District. And with that, one of the other things that we do is we partner with the HOA to where it makes sense to fund some common use for West Ranch residents. This is two pictures of a fishing pier down on Clear Creek, located within the district property, that had fallen into disrepair. And working through the HOA, the district funded it, but the HOA did all the heavy lifting of getting the work done. We rebuilt that deck, and that's how it looks today. So again, it's for use for fishing on Clear Creek. Goals and objectives. I don't think they've really changed much, although, as I said, the development of homes is kind of come to an end. But the board, absolutely, I wanted to stress, it looks and focuses on bringing value to the homeowners, lowering the homeowners' costs as much as we can, identifying, as I said earlier, sensible ways to reduce our bonds that are out there and retire those where it makes sense to, and then the prudent management of the district property. That remains its focus, core focus. Friendswood Development is still working to develop the retail. They're still focused on a town center kind of approach, especially for the property along 518. We haven't seen anything, and I haven't heard of anything that's hot right now to be used for that, but they're always entertaining and looking, entertaining offers, talking to people, continuing to work to develop those commercial properties. So I'm expecting to see something of that coming up. With that, I was asked to be brief. That was quick and fast. Any questions?
Good work, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Meredith. We appreciate it.
Joe, the West Ranch Management District, would any of, I guess all of that commercial property on 518 would be governed by the West Ranch Management District?
Yeah, I did the presentation. Any hard questions? Go right there.
I'm just assuming that would be the case. Just like the homes are subject to the HOA in the ranch district, the commercial properties would also be?
I'm not aware of any exceptions that exist. I know they would be taxpayers, and as soon as that development is complete, we could drop the tax rate for the homeowners, for everyone, even more. But
yeah, they would still be under the ranch.
I think they would, yes.
That's what
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Anything else for Meredith?
Thanks, Joe.
Thank
Thanks,
y'all.
Meredith. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Item 7, work session topic. Receive and discuss a presentation of the multi-year financial plan and preliminary fiscal year 2023 proposed budget summary review. And so the meeting that Robert referred to in his comments was our annual retreat that we had Saturday. Typically in our summer retreat, we kick it off with going over our 5-year plan. So you give it to us again, huh?
Sure, we are. Like, that's what we're here
Good.
for. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and guests. We are here to present a brief look at our multi-year financial plan, as well as a very preliminary review of our proposed budget for fiscal year 23. Keeping in mind that the multi-year financial plan, hold on. There we go. Multi-year financial plan covers the general fund, and then the tax debt service fund to support that. And so we'll go big picture, take a look at that one. Is it? It's moving. It's not moving. Oh, there we go. We will, like we will. So we'll look at our revenue planning assumptions in the multi-year financial plan, year one of the plan, based on the preliminary values that we've received from Galveston and Harris counties so far. We're estimating our property tax or net taxable value at about 12%. This does include our commercial properties that are not capped at the 10% like our residential properties are. And then in the out years of the plan, we're looking conservatively at an estimate of 3.8% growth in our property tax values. Our sales tax projections in the plan are for year one is about 3% annually. Well, actually, it's going up about 3% annually is what we're estimating in the plan on our sales tax revenue. And then all of our other revenue sources are at about 2% based on our anticipated population growth. We developed the multi-year financial plan year one at a flat tax rate, and that would result in us needing to we anticipate having to use a portion of our unused tax increment savings from prior years to get to that level, and that would yield us a general fund revenue total, property taxes and other revenues of about $34.2 million, about 85% of that coming from property tax, franchise taxes, sales taxes, and then the other 15% would be our non-tax revenue sources. We have several factors that are driving our need to hold at the current tax rate. On the previous slide where we mentioned the flat tax rate, our lingering impacts of adopting the no new revenue rate in numerous years, but especially in 2021, we're still working to recover some of that operational loss at cuts that we made at that time. We're also by holding at the flat tax rate in the current year, it allowed us to fund our current services as well as provided some funding for furniture, fixtures, and equipment at our public safety building and also at Fire Station number 2. So we were able to do that because we held at the flat tax rate. Several of our tax dollars are shifting, we're seeing tax dollars shift from the general fund maintenance and operations over to debt service to cover payments on the bonds that were issued based on voter approval. We're also seeing increases in our operational costs, and that's also a driving factor in our needing to hold at the current tax rate. We've got forces at work that have been proposed by the departments, that those are things that are out of our control, so to speak, but things that we have to fund, such as insurance for not just health insurance, but property insurance, those things that we're seeing increases there. So we've got some forces at work that we are proposing in the upcoming budget that is also a factor. We've got capital lease equipment purchases that we're needing to make. Those we're looking to fund through capital lease financing, and that actually has a debt service impact. So that's another item that's shifting some funding from M&O over to debt service. The departments have also identified decision packages, a lot of which, if even at the flat tax rate, we're not going to be able to fund all of those. We won't feasibly be able to do that. So on our expenditure planning assumptions in the multi-year financial plan, we are looking to continue with our existing personnel, and we're estimating a 3% increase in personnel costs year over year in the plan. And then based on historical averages, we're looking at about a 5% increase on the non-personnel related expenses in the plan. This slide is showing our revenue and expenditures historically and in the out years that we've included in the plan. It also reflects the changes in our fund balance. The green line on the chart shows our 90-day operating reserve that we will maintain throughout the plan, and that's based on our expenditures. It's a 90-day reserve for emergencies. And then the blue and purple lines actually show what would happen to our fund balance above the 90-day reserve if we were to fund the forces at work, current services, forces at work, and then decision packages if we were to fund everything. That would be that purple line that's in the chart.
And if I can add to Katrina's comments, you'll note in the current fiscal year, FY22, we're at 1.15 million above the 90-day reserve. Turn your mic off, please. If the red light is on, can you hear me? How about now? Now?
I'm just communicating.
No, I understand. I apologize. I'll speak louder as well. So the current fiscal year, we're at 1.15 above the 90-day reserve. As Katina was referencing, the 90-day reserve represents our emergency operations funds. God forbid a natural disaster or something were to occur. The amount of money above the 90-day reserve is created in part by funds not being expended in the budget that y'all allocate at the start of the fiscal year, and then whatever's not expended rolls over into this fund balance that can be used for one-time capital expenditures, projects or deferred maintenance items, so on and so forth. Today, we're 1.15 above the 90-day reserve. In FY21, we got a $2 million infusion of cash from the feds related to COVID expenditures. Without that COVID expenditure, that infusion of cash, we would be negative nearly $1 million of a 90-day reserve, meaning we wouldn't have sufficient funds for our emergency contingency.
How much funds are in there right now? You're saying 1 million over the 90-day reserve, but the total fund balance at the end of May 31st was like $20 million. And then we have what we have unencumbered and encumbered cost against that 90-day reserve, but that's still $20 million in there that we haven't expended deals. And then you go down to the bottom and say, oh, we're 1.1 million or 1.5 million over 90-day reserve.
So those are restricted funds. For instance, when we issue bonds that the voters approve for drainage or for Fire Station 2 or for the public safety building expansion, that $9 million that was issued for the public safety building expansion and Fire Station 2 sit in the bank until the construction is complete or until we have to pay those invoices. So it looks like we have 20 million in the bank, but we can't use a penny of that for non-fire station and public safety building expenses. So of the money that's not encumbered, either by law or by other project commitments, we're only 1.15 above the 90-day reserve.
Thank you, Mo.
And would like to also mention before we leave this slide that by utilizing our fund balance above the 90-day reserve, we actually were able to fund roughly $2 million. Part of that was the funds that we received, that infusion of funds, but $1 million for our public safety building expansion project, public works building, also PD software. So those are the kind of things that we are able to utilize the fund balance above the 90-day reserve, and we have done that, and that's helped us to offset some of those inflationary costs that have been involved with some of the projects. Our next slide.
I'll discuss this item. Can you hear me? Okay. As you know, in 2019, the city of Friendswood executed a new contract with the volunteer fire department. The volunteer fire department's been around with the city of Friendswood for well over 60 plus years, serving our community with their own time and resources, blood, sweat, and tears, and for that, we're eternally grateful. Here recently, the volunteer fire department in 2019 did a shift more towards EMS billing, partly because they're having fewer and fewer volunteers step up to provide services on the EMS side. Currently, they're fully operational as a paid staff with the exception of volunteers in their leadership roles. They've approached the city with concerns, labor shortages, cost concerns, and call volume increases that they're going to have to switch those part-time EMS positions into full-time positions. And as such, there's going to be a cost added to our contract with the volunteer fire department each year for the next 5 years. That order of magnitude cost increase is roughly $300,000 a year. So as we had in the contract, we started conversations with the volunteer fire department about bringing some of those services in-house to help reduce those overhead expenditures. Regardless of how you slice it, you're going to be spending anywhere from $300,000 a year more than what we're currently spending at roughly $2.2 million a year, or 200 and something thousand. We currently have 3 ambulances, 2 that are fully staffed 24 hours, 7 days a week. The third one is in reserve. If we have a third call come in, they try to fill it with some volunteer if they're able to, or they have to wait till the ambulance is back in service. By year 5, they need a 4th ambulance based on the call volumes they're seeing. So these costs are coming down the pike are unfortunately inevitable.
So to summarize our multi-year financial plan, our 90-day reserve for emergencies would be maintained throughout the plan. Year 1 reflects the current tax rate or holding at the flat tax rate. In the out years, we are estimating the no new revenue rate at this point, keeping in mind that as we get values each year, we analyze that and our multi-year financial plan changes accordingly. As always, the multi-year financial plan does not automatically include any decision package items in the plan, leaving room for staff, city manager, council to give input on those items as funding is available and as the needs are present. We'll narrow our focus a little bit here and start talking a very preliminary, very preliminary look at our proposed budget for this year. For the upcoming fiscal year. As always, we're in this presentation, we're actually going to look at the general fund and the water sewer operating funds. On the screen, you'll see coming up several of those key factors or key drivers, things that we're taking into consideration as we prepare the proposed budget for fiscal year 2023. This will be what our decisions on our revenue projections are based on, as well as how those funds will be allocated once we know what's available to us. Won't read them all, we'll just leave them there for seconds to let everybody go through those because we'll get into more detail with them in future slides. We are seeing, just like everywhere in the country, we're seeing some of our highest operational increases that we've seen in years past. Our consumables, those expenses like fuel and electricity, those are things that are driving our supply categories to an increase of about 20% is what we're expecting for this next year and what we're basing our budget, basing an increase on in our budget. We're also seeing vehicle costs being more for replacing our fleet. So we're experiencing, about a 23% increase on our vehicle replacements. We're seeing government incentive or government pricing incentive programs ending because there's no need to compete for that. So we're seeing some of those programs, or a lot of those programs, most of them ending. And so we're not able to capitalize on that when we replace our fleet. So we're seeing an increase in our supply category of about 20% and increases on our service line items in our budget, which includes vehicle replacement, of about 12% for the upcoming year.
To add to the last bullet, the services category of $1.3 million increase, 400,000 of it, nearly 400,000, is just the landscaping cost associated with our medians throughout the community, flower beds at every city facility and our sports facilities in Stevenson Park. As we mentioned to you at an earlier council meeting, last year we had budgeted and spent per contract $362,000 for mowing and landscape services citywide. That cost right now, as bid, is nearly over $700,000. Unfortunately, we have nowhere else to absorb those additional costs. Now, we can scale back the frequency and the manner in which those landscaping are maintained, or ask for other entities such as youth sports organization take over those responsibilities to help offset those costs.
That really brings up a question. The RFP that we're going to discuss later for landscaping and mowing, that scope of work that we're going to probably go ahead and vote on tonight.
Yes, sir.
Is not the same scope of work that they've done in the past in 2021, 2020, as far as the dollars are concerned, because I looked back at our budget for 2020 and 2021, and the mowing for just this last year, operations was $321,716, and for facilities it was $46,600. For about $369,000. Well, if I look at the bid that we just got in our RFP today, and I think we all pretty much were confident on who we were going to go with, the base was $240,919.74, and the alt ads, which is ryegrass, fertilizer, all the other things, and landscaping and planting of the plants specifically by the RFP that we put out, was $387,045.24. So I mean, the $700,000 isn't adding up to me, because that's only $18,000 difference, and we budgeted 320, let me see, what was the total budget? And I think we've even gone up since then, but we're only looking at a 5% increase over the RFP. So if the RFPs change, that would make sense.
So you may recall 2 months ago, we awarded a mowing contract. The original Yellowstone mowing contractor had worked with the city last year when we bid the service for $369,000 and change, as you had mentioned.
He said he couldn't do it.
And he said he couldn't do it, so we had to go out for a new bid. Mowing alone is not part of this RFP. That mowing contract was awarded 2 months ago when the previous Yellowstone wasn't able to do it. And mowing for that one was $320,000. So the $388 you're looking at is just landscaping. It doesn't include any mowing. So y'all already awarded that contract 2 months ago.
Okay.
We had this conversation.
And I would maybe just to add to the point, in our budget, we have a mowing line item. We have mowing line items throughout the budget, but we also have landscaping as a separate line item in some areas of the budget. So that may be part of the.
Yeah. And we split the two
through operations and facilities.
Okay.
So we split the two services hoping to get a better price. And even with the one that we went out for an RFP that y'all are considering this evening, we scaled back the frequency of the weeding and the trimming within the flower beds and only limited the ryegrass and the fertilizer to Stevenson Park and to Centennial Park, just due to the
4 pounds and 5 pounds respectively.
Correct. And that was after going out for bid for the same services that you have to hear tonight a month ago, and they came in at $500,000. And so we rejected all those bids. And
Yeah, they were all rejected. We didn't accept any of them.
for landscaping, but for mowing services, we approved that contract back in March.
Okay.
As previously mentioned, our debt service obligations are growing based on the bonds that were approved by voters. As those principal and interest payments grow, it takes funds away from our maintenance and operations. So the chart at the bottom left of the slide shows the increase in the INS, or the debt service portion of our tax rate, and then the decline of our M&O tax rate. As you'll recall, with our 2019 bond package, we've got about 30 million of that still left to issue. We're planning to issue around 23 million of that in the upcoming fiscal year. As I mentioned to you on Saturday, I'll mention again that once we issue that debt, we won't see the first payment until the previous fiscal year, but keeping in mind that the bonds that we've already issued have debt service payments that are shifting dollars over. And then after that, we would have about 7 million left to issue at some point in the future, and those are for drainage improvements. We are seeing increases in our insurance costs, our insurance premiums for health insurance for our employees, as well as windstorm insurance, our property insurance, liability insurance. We're seeing increases through all of those. We're right now in negotiations with the brokers, hoping to get our preliminary estimates of 10 to 30% down to a lesser percentage of increase, but we do anticipate an increase on our insurance. Also, in our upcoming budget, we've got quite a few deferred maintenance items and deferred equipment purchases to the tune of about $2.4 million. About 55% of what the departments have identified are related to deferred maintenance items, and then about 230,000 of that has been delayed a year or more. So we are also seeing in our upcoming fiscal year the impact of those bond projects coming online. As the public safety building expansion completes and Fire Station 2 completes, we've got additional janitorial services, we've got additional utilities that are related to those, and that's going to total roughly $157,000. That's those bond projects, as well as some of the grant-related projects for property acquisitions, where we're having to mow those properties that we've not had in the past. I'd mentioned to you previously, we have an impact on our fund balance of about $1.5 million. That's things that we've funded through fund balance related to these properties. Also, our personnel costs are increasing. We have included or plan to include in the preliminary or in the proposed budget merit increase for our employees. Information on the slide later will show what we hope to show is how much that merit means to our most valuable resource, which is our employees. We're proposing or planning to include about $630,000 in merit for our employees. That's not only the wages, but the taxes and benefits associated with it. And we are seeing, and we're experiencing, everybody's experiencing the increase in the cost of living. We looked at that for housing, housing, insurance, transportation costs. About $4,700 is what a family of three is experiencing in increase in their living expenses. And on the right, we've just pulled a few of our employees' salaries just to show how important that employee merit is, because it does it closes that gap between what families are experiencing and what their paychecks are reflective.
And as I've said before, the City of Friendswood does not have a cost of living adjustment to its budget. Each year, an employee is evaluated based upon their performance, and if they perform sufficiently, they will get a merit increase. And obviously, it varies based upon their performance level. As you'll see in a few slides later, Friendswood is as lean and mean as you can be when it comes to staffing. We have the lowest staffing ratio out of any Houston metro area city, and we're proud of that. But the only way we can retain that is if we continue to provide adequate merit increases for the employees based on their performance.
The next slide coming up, we'll start to focus on the general fund a little bit more and give you a little more detail there. Our general fund revenues, we are projecting to be around $34.2 million. This slide shows a comparison to our current adopted budget. So going from roughly almost 32 million to 34.2 million for the coming fiscal year. The next slide gives a different view of that revenue and what it breaks down, how it breaks down. As I mentioned before, about 85% of the general fund's revenues come from taxes. That's property tax, franchise taxes, sales tax, and then the other 15% is our non-tax revenue sources, such as permits, building permits, fines, fees for services in our Parks and Rec. We also have cell tower rentals is in our miscellaneous. We've got some intergovernmental revenue, which is mainly interlocal agreements. As I mentioned, we included in the multi-year financial plan, and we are building our proposed budget based on a flat tax rate. It means holding at our current tax rate. We are seeing we're expecting an increase of about 320 million in property values, estimating that to be around 4.8 billion, so up about 320 million from the previous year. We've got about 59 million in new construction that is included. About $355 million of our property value was under protest at the end of June. We anticipate about 85% of that being certified and included on our in our net taxable value. Holding at the flat tax rate would allow us to cover current services as well as fund about $4.5 million in debt service payments. So keeping in mind that our property tax exemptions that we have held and continue to hold are in place. We've got a 20% homestead exemption. Also factored into our tax rate is a 5-cent, it's roughly 5-cent sales tax increment where our sales tax, a portion of our sales tax offsets our voter approved tax rate. So it lowers that voter approval tax rate. So we've got all of those things factored in. And as mentioned, we believe that holding at the flat tax rate will allow us to maintain current services and meet our debt service obligations.
Katina, could you go back
Yes,
there
sir.
to that slide right back there just for another second? So our total debt service right now, our obligations 4.5 million.
For next year.
4.3 plus 200,000 is
For-
what we're looking at right now. We've had higher debt
Yes,
service
sir.
obligations than that. 2019, 2020 were 5.7 million.
Yes, sir.
And we were able to do no net revenue financing and still finance the debt. Now, that's not saying we're fixing to issue the 23 million, because I don't know if we're actually going to issue that. I hope we do, because that means drainage projects are moving forward. But
Correct.
that may not happen in 2022, 2023. It could be pushed to 23, 24. But that's our total debt service in the general fund, not water and sewer.
That is correct, and I want to back up. Our debt service payment wasn't $5 million 2 years ago. I'd have to.
Or I think it was 5.7 in 2019, 2020. Do you have that?
So.
I think it was 5.7.
If I recall
was our
the
total debt service, but
the INS rate was right around 8 or 9 cents, so it would have been in the low threes, 3.23. But
3.23. Okay, I'll go back. I'll have to go back.
We'll pull it during this meeting and take a look at it.
Okay.
For you.
I just thought that we've had higher debt service in the last couple of years.
Historically, Friendswood in 2019, when we did the bond program, that was a historic high watermark, no pun intended, in terms of debt authorization.
Right.
Historically, we've had less than 10% of our taxable value was geared towards debt. When the voters said, yes, we want to do $52 million worth of projects, that changed the dynamic considerably. And it, ultimately, when all the funds are issued, we're looking at 20%.
And that 50 million is sitting in retained funds. It hasn't been issued yet.
We haven't issued, so we've issued all but 30
So
million
it's
of it.
sitting there retained.
Yes.
So
sir.
we
It's
and it won't
authorized.
impact us until we actually issue the debt.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So since then, we've wiped out 2015, 2016, and 2017. I think there was like $363,000 that we rolled into the 2020 and 2021 bonds because we could save money on it. So actually, we're not doing too bad as far as debt service. And I just wanted to bring that up. I know we've paid more in debt services with less money than we're actually projecting now. I just wanted to mention that. I thought it was 5.7, but we can check. It might have been 4.9, but I know it was higher than 4.5. I think.
So out of the last 3 years, we've expended an additional $1 million in debt service payment.
Okay.
But we'll get you the exact figure.
Thank you.
And again, the 4.5 million, if we were to, whatever bonds we issue in 2023, it won't have a debt service impact in next fiscal year,
Right.
depending on when we issue them. I should say that.
That's kind of the point I was
caveat that.
making. Even if we were to issue that 23 million, even if we have projects for it, it wouldn't come up. But I hope that we can do the projects, because there's some really good projects out there that I would like to see done for drainage. But everybody does the two-step, it looks like to me, every time I try to we try to get drainage done. It's the two-step back.
And the other difficulty with these projects, as Katina's already noted, it's not just the cost of the debt associated with the project, it's the cost of the ongoing maintenance. For instance, we're doing the Forest Bend Detention Pond.
I agree.
Spectacular project. Detention pond previously didn't exist there. Though the GLO is paying the lion's share of the construction cost, we're assuming the maintenance and operation costs moving forward. So we're now mowing another 20 acres of property that the city of Friendswood previously wasn't
That
responsible
becomes
for.
our baby.
That becomes our baby. And the more of these projects that we pursue, the more of our baby that becomes. And these are great opportunities for Friendswood, but they come at a cost.
Right.
And I'm pulling up the debt service information for you while Katina continues her.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The next slide is a comparison of the city of Friendswood's tax rate and tax bill compared to some of the other taxing entities in Galveston County. As you'll see in the charts, all of the taxing entities did show an increase in the tax bill to the residents. But you will also see that all but the drainage district showed a decrease in the tax rate for that 5-year window that we looked at in the slides. The top left shows the impact of shows the exemptions that are offered by by all of the taxing entities. The city and the drainage district offer the 20% homestead exemption. The school district offers a flat exemption, and the county and the city have a 20% homestead exemption. The drainage district has offers no exemption. And then the bottom right shows our net taxable value. As you can see in the chart, the city is the green bar. And so looking at the exemptions that are offered by the taxing entities, it does impact the net taxable value, and then that in turn impacts the levy or the revenue that the entity receives. So where we have a 20% homestead exemption, if you look at a $450,000 home, we're getting taxes per 100 on 360,000 of that 450,000, where some of the other taxing entities are getting levy off of the full 450,000 or 100 per 100 of the 450,000.
Katina?
So,
Yes, sir.
In next year, would you do the same slide for our Harris County citizens?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And if we can go back real quick to Robert's question. So in fiscal year 2019, so that's 2018, 2019, our actual debt service payment was $3.2 million. In fiscal year 2020, our actual debt service payment was $3.36 million. In FY21, it was $3.8 million. The current fiscal year, it's $4.3 million, and this upcoming year will be 4.5. So since 2019, we've gone from 3.2 to 4.5 million in debt service payment.
Thank you, Mo.
All right, taking a look at the general fund expenditures that we are anticipating proposing for the upcoming fiscal year. 3.4 million this slide actually compares it to prior year, or current year, I'm sorry, I've already moved on. And then the next slide gives us a different look at the general fund expenditures. About 67% is personnel related, and then the other is non-personnel related. A different view of the expenditures. And then a breakdown of what's included in that 34.4 million. About 23.3 million is personnel costs. As we mentioned before, we are anticipating including employee merit. We have a health dental insurance increase of about 10% built into our estimates at this point. Again, hoping that negotiations will bring that number down. And if so, we'll make those necessary adjustments. We have a couple of positions that we are anticipating needing to include in the proposed budget. They are basically force at work in nature because of changes in operations in the departments. Also, we are seeing about 11.1 million 11.2 million in non-personnel costs, and some of those we've explained before, the increases that we're seeing there. We've got, as mentioned before, about 1.2 million also in forces at work that we're anticipating including. The next slide, Murad kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. At this point in the year, we're always trying to balance that scale. We're trying to figure out what revenue sources we have available to us and how to balance the budget, you know, like trying to allocate those funds accordingly. We're doing that in the leanest way possible. This chart shows that our employees, we're at 57 employees per 10,000 in population compared to some of our neighboring cities that are at 171 employees per 10,000. So we are doing all that we can with the least number of people possible, and I think the current services are well maintained.
Where do you get those numbers for the other cities?
With their
budgets.
budget documents.
Destination.
Yeah, some of those are like destination city, like jobs.
We're looking at our neighboring.
And just to reiterate, staff is not proposing that we start staffing like these other communities. I just, when we talk about our most valuable asset, I want it to be known. I know y'all know it, but also for the public, how lean and mean we're staffed.
Where's my slide?
Your slide's coming up.
Coming up.
Last time, John. This is the last time. My name needs to be on it.
So if Katina doesn't mind, I'll describe this slide unless John wants to, but this slide represents the last 14 years worth of tax rate adoptions for the city of Friendswood. And those last 14 years, all but 5 years, we adopted the no new revenue rate, the effective tax rate, or less, meaning we opted to bring in less funds than we had the previous year. We have done every bit of pencil sharpening and every bit of a cost-cutting measure we possibly can. The 5 years in which we didn't adopt the effective tax rate or less, we issued debt that the voters said, yes, we want to pay for these projects and we're willing to pay more taxes in order to get these projects accomplished. And that still holds true for this upcoming fiscal year. So we're not recommending raising taxes without the impact of these bond projects. These bond projects are driving this, as well as the inflationary impacts that everybody in the community is facing. Is there anything you want to add, John? Sorry.
No, I'm just glad after 11 years, now the 12th year, we're not saying how desperate it will become when the expenses exceed the revenues.
No,
we
always
know that'll never happen.
We will always have a balanced budget.
That's right. That's right.
We can't adopt deficit budgets.
But boy, that was a big selling point when I first got on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Fear the sky is falling. It'll never happen.
Let's shift gears to the water sewer fund for the last few slides here. This slide compares our preliminary estimates for our water sewer revenue at about 18 million. As you can see, this slide compares it to our current year's budget. Another look at the breakdown. With this, our water sewer charges for services make up the majority of the revenue in the water sewer fund. It's about 97% of the budget comes from the utility fees, and then the remaining 2 to 3% comes from meter service, like meter charges for new meters, and a little bit of interest earnings there, and then administrative fees for non-payment or late payment of utility fees. Our expenditures in the upcoming budget are about 16.8 million, and this is the breakdown for those. And this is pretty much the opposite of the general fund. About 85% of the water sewer fund is made up of expenditures are made up of non-personnel costs. These are our services that we pay for water treatment services, as well as purchased water from the city of Houston.
And just to add to that, that's a function of the fact that we contract those regional services, both at our wastewater treatment plant as well as our surface water treatment plant, that we share amongst other cities and co-participants.
And on the next slide, it will show another breakdown of the expenditures that we're proposing or planning to propose for next year, about 13.3 million in non-personnel costs and about 2.9 million in personnel costs on the water sewer side, including the merit and our estimated health insurance increases. We're also anticipating to include about $630,000 in decision packages that have been identified as needs by the departments. And the final slide shows our next steps and key dates to get to our budget and tax rate adoption. We are planning to deliver the proposed budget to council by July 29th. And then we'll have a budget work session at our August council meeting for us to further discuss those final numbers that have been included in the proposed budget for your consideration. We'd also plan to have a public hearing. We have to have a public hearing on the proposed budget prior to its adoption. So we're planning, or would be planning, to do that at a special meeting on August 29th. We'll need to, if we're holding, or if the proposed tax rate is current tax rate, we are anticipating needing to have a public hearing on the tax rate, which could happen on the same night as our budget and tax rate adoption, and that would be on September 12th, if all goes well. And as always, we welcome council's input as we go through the budget process. We're far from finished. These next couple of weeks are going to be critical. We expect to receive certified values from both counties, and that is really a major that's a major wait for us. We're always in anticipation of that, to see how close our estimates are to those final numbers. Do y'all have any other questions?
Okay, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Quick. So this is just to kind of boil everything down. The average home value in the city of Friendswood, do we know what that is?
The average home value is about $434,000.
434. How much of the proposed revenue increase is bond related or sufficient to going towards debt service
The proposed
on a
revenue,
percentage basis?
the proposed revenue increase for property
Going to debt service.
or going to debt service, we're anticipating a little less than a penny. So it'd be around a penny on the tax rates. 475,000 is what we're anticipating. So we're looking.
And so on a percentage basis, that's roughly 30%?
That's roughly 30% of the tax.
We're looking at about a $1.2 million increase in revenue. Bless you.
Yes,
basically.
for that.
Okay, so
Can I just add to that?
please do, yeah.
The non-30%, the other 67% are inflationary costs associated with contract services. So, for instance, the $389,000 we're about to talk about with landscaping, that rolls into that.
No.
Okay.
I'm not knocking anything.
Okay.
I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm just trying to. So roughly 30%, 33% of the increase in revenue that the city is proposing is going to debt service, which voters have voted and approved.
Correct.
And then finally, for the homeowner that owns the average value home in the city of Friendswood, how much of an increase will they see in their tax bill as it relates to the city revenue increase?
About $40, we're thinking.
$40
Like roughly $40.
$40.
annually.
Annually.
Right. So if you own a,
That was over
That
the
was
last
over
5
5
years. We
years.
went up
That was-
$238.
Just trying to
Yeah.
remember.
that was
where
like
I saw
285.
Yeah.
But
Around $40.
So
40.
So on if
So
you,
okay, so again, so for the average homeowner that owns a home worth $435,000 or whatever the average home value is, you'll see an increase of $40
annually.
annually.
Yes, sir.
Annually
If our
on the
projections.
city's portion.
On the city's portion, I can't speak for the school district, drainage
No,
district,
somebody
or
needs
county.
to speak to the school district, but the taxes you pay for the city, I think, are very well managed.
And that is.
And I appreciate that, and that's due to the hard work of these fine
I agree with
individuals
you
and everybody else
100%.
in the community. Yeah.
100%.
That is if our estimates hold. That's, I always want to put that
Well-
caveat, if our estimates hold.
So again, I mean, I just wanted to break it down in layman terms because I'm
Yes, sir.
a pretty simple guy. So, if you live in the city of Friendswood, your average home price is $435,000. You're going to pay an increase of $40 at the end of the year
Yes, sir.
annually,
Yes, sir.
We got that
keeping the
right.
same tax rate that we had last year and the year before, but because of assessed value.
But it's still, yeah, and that's great, but, and everybody knows this because I've said it for 12 years, but, you know, there is an increase in revenue of roughly $1.2 million by keeping the tax rate flat.
Correct.
So the tax rate adjusts based on, as you guys know, the appraised values that come into the city and our budget demands.
Correct.
So it's an increase of 1.2 million.
Yes, sir.
Or about 3.5%, of which 30% of that 3.5% is going to debt service that taxpayers voted for.
Yes, sir.
And if you live in a home in the city of Friendswood, you will likely see an increase of $40 on average.
Correct.
Annually.
Yes, sir. And I will add the non-property tax revenues, new construction additional revenues we get from new construction property taxes, that has started slowing down considerably in Friendswood. Sales tax has stagnated quite a bit, I would imagine, due to the impact of inflationary impacts that are out there.
Well, it's inflation and people are back at work.
Correct. I would love to, in some circumstances, have the revenue streams of our neighboring cities when they see new constructions that are values that are 10 times what we're seeing, and that helps offset some of the impacts that they would see. Unfortunately, we're a quality community, so the new construction we have is less in terms of volume, but it's
As
a
it
lot
should be.
valued higher. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm proud of what we've done in the 12 years I've been up here, and certainly very, very appreciative of city staff for what you guys do. I mean, y'all's budgeting year in and year out. I mean, again, what was it, 9 out of 14 years?
Yes.
You know, and the only time we've increased it traditionally has been due to debt that the citizens voted for. So
yes, sir.
Yeah, very, very thankful for how frugal our city staff is, and Katina, you get a lot of credit for that. So
I can't do what I do without the rest of the city.
Councilmember Hanks has a
So,
question.
Katina, when do you get the final values from the counties?
They're supposed to issue them to us by July 25th. So that's when you'll know.
So that additional revenue it takes in everything, not just the increased values on existing homes, but also the new construction,
Yes,
also
ma'am.
the sales tax, also all those things.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
And we hope to have the vast majority of the protested values determined by this fall, but historically that's also drug on for several months into the fiscal year.
It can.
Well, Katina, Rhonda, Emily, great job as always. You guys are champions for sharpening pencils and putting a great budget together for us. So thank you so much for the hard work.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much for your input.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katina.
thank you, guys.
Item 8, City Manager's Report.
I think y'all have heard enough from me this evening, so I'll keep this brief. I would like to first off echo some of the comments that were made earlier tonight. Thank you to James, Tony, Bob, Brian, Renee, everybody that pitched in on the 4th of July. It was a spectacular event. Thank you to the 4th of July Steering Committee that they did a wonderful job this past, I guess a week ago, this past Monday. Coming up, starting this Friday, is our annual Movies in the Park that the Friendswood Rotary sponsors here at Centennial Park, or I say here at Centennial Park off of FM 518. It'll be every Friday night. There are kid-friendly movies that the whole family can enjoy, so please come out and enjoy a movie at the Evelyn B. Newman Amphitheater located in Centennial Park. The library is hosting a town hall meeting on July 19th, so next week at 6 p.m. They're seeking input on long-range strategic plans for the library. There are no bad ideas. If you have any, obviously come and voice your opinion on what you'd like to see the library look like over the next several years. If you have no opinion, you just want to enjoy the library, come take a peruse what we have. There's a number of offerings that are exceptional at our Friendswood Library. This past June, we hosted the Regional City Manager Association lunch for Texas. Unfortunately, I was out sick that day, but thanks to Stephen and Glenda in my office, they hosted in my stead. I will say we had record turnout for this event. We typically have anywhere from 15 to 20 attendees, area city managers from across this region. There was 45 that RSVP'd for it. Only 37 showed up. Now I was one of the 45, but it was a spectacular turnout. And we got to discuss issues that these city managers are seeing across in their communities. Waterline breaks. So if you're out and about in town, I'm sure you've seen Renee and his folks working in some of the hottest conditions that we've had in the last several years. As we have dry conditions, unfortunately, it leads to shifting soils, it leads to waterline breaks, and unfortunately causes quite a bit of havoc on our infrastructure. We typically are averaging right now about 1 to 4 breaks a week, and our crews are working nearly 24 hours a day responding to these breaks in those unfortunate temperatures. So Renee, please pass along my thanks to your folks working these events. Lastly, I want to mention our Friendswood EMS. They do stellar work, and for the 6th consecutive year, they've been recognized by the American Heart Association for their STEMI treatment capabilities, and it's regarding heart attacks, strokes, and other heart-related issues. They've been recognized as Gold Plus, again, 6 straight years in a row. So if you see Lisa Camp and her team, please pass along my thanks. I think Jeff Smith is in the audience as well. Thank you to the Volunteer Fire Department for all they do. And that is it.
Thanks, Murad. Good job. Okay. Item 9, business items.
Not offended at all, John.
We all knew what you were going to say. Item 9A, consider approving master services agreement number 19829 with MCCI LLC for the purchase of Laserfish software licenses and professional services related to a records management system upgrade, GIS integration, and contract management system with electronic signature capabilities. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Trish and Sally, any questions, comments? All in favor? Motion passes. B, consider authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute debris monitoring services contracts with Thompson Consulting Services and Tetra Tech, RFP 2022-12. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sally and Robert, any discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. C, consider authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute debris removal services contracts with Crowder Golf and KDF Enterprise LLC, RFP 2022-13. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Robert and Steve? Robert and Brent? Thought it came from that side. Okay, all in favor? Motion passes. Consider authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute a contract with Manor Maintenance for the maintenance and landscaping of the city's parks and facilities, RFP 2022-15. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Steve and John. Any discussion on this topic? Kind of beat this into the ground a little bit.
We did reference this earlier during the budget discussion. I do want to remind folks this is simply landscaping. So flower bed maintenance at all city facilities as well as medians throughout town. This is, and that includes weeding and trimming of bushes and stuff twice a month, as well as the installation of ryegrass and fertilizer at Stevenson Park and Centennial Park for a total bill of $388,000. Mowing was awarded back in March for these services. Obviously, we can scale back maybe the frequency to help reduce some of these costs or forego some of this stuff and ask for other agencies to help pitch in.
How many bids were submitted?
So we got a total of 4 bids, if I recall correctly, or 3, sorry.
Three. We had a total of 8 that was present at the mandatory pre-bid meeting, but only 3 decided to submit a bid. And of the 3, only 2 were complete.
Okay.
And I will note that we bid this exact same services a month and a half ago, and the bids came in at $500,000. So we obviously knew that was well beyond what was budgeted, so we went out for rebid.
Okay.
So what was the reason for the reduction? Did they?
We scaled back the frequency, and we broke down things and itemized them as much as possible so that we knew what potentially we could forego if we had to.
There is mowing in this bid. Are you saying there's no mowing in this?
There's no mowing.
Well, that's not what I read in the RFP.
So the mowing was awarded to, I want to say Special Touch.
Horticare.
Thank you. Horticare back in March that mows all of our city facilities as well as the buyout properties that we have throughout the community.
Centennial Park. This is just landscaping.
This is landscaping, ryegrass, and fertilizer.
and
That's the
insecticide.
Altides is the ryegrass
Yes.
fertilizer and that.
Yes. And Todd Mendenhall is here this evening with Manor Maintenance if you have any questions for the contractor.
Any other questions? We got a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion passes. E, consider authorizing an interlocal agreement with the Galveston County Consolidated Drainage District. Do I have a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Sally and Brent? Any questions? All in favor?
What was that? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Drainage District, interlocal,
Okay.
with your guy. I didn't get a chance to look down here.
We all voted.
You all voted, okay.
Sorry about that.
Motion passes. Thanks, Robert. Distraction. Let's see, consider authorizing the interlocal contractual agreement concerning breath alcohol technical supervisor with the City of League City, Galveston County, the City of Webster, the City of Seabrook, the City of South Houston, the City of Texas City, and the City of Pearland.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Trish and Robert.
And I only had one quick question. What is our share of that 100,000? I couldn't tell in the.
Honestly, I don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to ask Bob.
I don't know what our share is. I know League City's paying them $8,333.33 a month, but I don't know what our share is, and we're all agreeing on it.
Let me look that up real quick.
He's asking Bob right now.
I don't know what our
All right.
pro rata share is.
Hey, he asked for it. I was content. You could stay out there, talk about how
Well,
it's a football.
10 minutes?
Chief,
Oh,
you
no,
know
no,
I'm
no,
going to
no.
read this stuff, and I saw League Cities getting the $100,000 contract. They pay $8,333 a month. What's our share of that? There's all these cities involved.
So what's the
The breathalyzer contract.
right? So the
Technical supervisor.
right, but what is the contract price?
It's the equal share. So
It's
ours
an
is
equal
3,000
share.
as well.
Oh, that's ours.
Yes, and City of League Cities, all entities are paying an equal share within this contract.
So we have to have a technical supervisor, and the cost of employing that technical supervisor is split evenly among the participating municipalities. So what you have is our fair share of the salary and benefits of the person who oversees all of the intoxilizers.
So the agreement
Yes,
is
sir.
for $100,000.
Correct.
Okay. That's the agreement that League City is entering into with the alcohol bats.
Correct.
And we pay a proportionate share of that.
Correct.
But League City's paying $8,333 a month. So we're paying $8,333 a month too? That can't be.
So
No.
League City has to pay that personnel that Chief was referencing, just like any other employee of their
I'm just
organization. So,
asking what our share
so
of
our
it
share
is.
of it is,
Of that 100,000, what do we owe?
hold on one second.
I think it's
It's not clear-
$8,500.
Yeah, it's not clear in the agreement that I could read.
Hold on one second.
I don't know how they divide it.
See, it's their employee. That
Right.
technical supervisor is actually a League City employee. So with salary and with benefits, it comes out to, the 100,000 and some change.
And all the cities around here are going with it.
That's
I mean,
correct.
that's what I.
That's
I-
correct.
So our share, it's League City's paying that individual $8,300 a year. Our share is $14,000 annually.
Annually. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's the only question I had.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm for it though.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
I got a motion and a second. All
You
in
still
favor?
have another 8 minutes.
Sit down, Marine.
Marie.
Okay, item G, consider authorizing the Friendswood Downtown Economic Development Corporation, FDEDC, to expend funds for Stevenson Park conceptual design plan and authorizing an agreement related thereto.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Steve and Sally.
Okay.
Now,
Excuse
Can we
me.
get some,
You will get some background, yes, sir.
please?
let me just make a comment first.
Go for it.
And there was a comment made earlier about whether or not Mayor Mike was going to vote on this, alluding to the fact that maybe there's a conflict of interest. Let me just state for the record, there is no conflict here. My wife volunteers with a lot of groups in the city to make the city better. She would never take a penny under the table, over the table, whatever you people are saying about this. This is malicious misinformation in my estimation. And people are doing this just to tarnish the integrity of my wife and possibly me. But, I just am tired of hearing this BS. And so I just want to state for the record. So Anybody that's listening to this at home, there is no collusion here. There is no conflict of interest. Mike or Lori Foreman will never make any money off of anything that is done in this city. I mean, it's all volunteer like we are up here. We're trying to make this city better, like all the people out there in the red shirts right now. They are making the city better by volunteering. So if you're out there spreading this BS, then please stop, because it is just not right.
Thank you, Mike.
Here, here.
So, thank
No.
you. Okay, so Murad, you want to say something?
Yes, sir.
I yield the floor.
Thank you. As you all know, the Keep Friendswood Beautiful committee that's represented out there in the red shirts recently were awarded the Governor's Community Achievement Award. This is a state grant that only a few communities ever achieve once. Friendswood has achieved it twice in the last 6 years, and so I applaud their efforts in bringing much-needed beautification dollars to Friendswood. That grant of $250,000 can be utilized for beautifying TxDOT right-of-ways. So some of the landscaping you see up and down FM 518 within the medians, obviously they come with a cost afterwards that we're going to have to maintain. The beautiful medians you have along 2351 that were recently upgraded over the last several years. And what they're considering this year is an entryway sign into Stevenson Park. It's depicted in that top right picture, that those white columns, there's 6 of them, and then the steel Stevenson Park entryway sign. Well, when the KFB committee was selected and they determined that that's the project they want to pursue, the Stevenson Park entryway sign, as well as some additional landscaping in the medians in front of Stevenson Park towards League City where we have medians, they said, this is a spectacular addition to Stevenson Park. Would it be possible to upgrade the parking lot that's directly behind where the entryway sign is going to go? Historically, I've been asked by folks in the community as well as some folks on this council, hey, is it possible to rip out the foundation of the old fire station site and have one level parking space, as you heard from Mr. Jones earlier this evening? Well, the cost of doing that was $750,000. With what we're seeing in terms of material cost and other inflationary factors, it was just too cost prohibitive. So I told KFB and members of KFB and staff, we don't have the funds, but you know what? What you can do is develop a plan, get a plan together so that we can submit for grant opportunities in the future, or potentially put it on a future bond package for the vote of the people. That's how we got the sidewalks up and down 518 completed. So in 2019, the City of Friendswood, the FDEDC, and the City Council approved the Downtown Improvement Program, a plan that outlined our path forward for the 1/8 cent sales tax that we currently have for downtown. Unfortunately, we didn't get the first grant we were after, but TxDOT approached us and said, hey, we have another pot of funds that we can give to the City of Friendswood to accomplish the mast arm, the traffic signal upgrades that you see, as well as the sidewalk enhancements downtown. $3+ million brought to the City of Friendswood. So I shared that as an example with KFB, and I said, hey, if you could put together a plan, you may be able to go out and solicit grant dollars and some other things that may be able to pay for the beautifying of that parking lot. Well, they need money for that plan in order to achieve it. But any plan is limited without public input. So they went and said, hey, if FDEDC, since this is in downtown, would it be possible, and I even suggested it to them, would it be possible to fund the conceptual plan of $13,500 so that we can develop something that we can go out and solicit input, potentially vie for grant opportunities? FDEDC was on board. One thing that's considerably taken out of context right now is the plan hasn't been developed. No commitment has been made in terms of paying somebody $13,000.
In fact, that money can't be spent until we vote.
Correct.
And the EDC has a great job there to provide recommendations to City Council.
So
they don't spend the money that comes in on that. They make recommendations on what to do with it. And we vote. So until we vote.
So, and if y'all vote this down, the $13,000, the contract opportunity goes away. Let me specify something about this conceptual plan proposal that Half and Associates has submitted. It's to develop a plan. It hasn't been developed yet, based on public input in town hall meetings and online surveys. So the community has every opportunity to say what they want developed on that property, or not developed on that property if they so choose. The conceptual drawings that were presented to FDEDC were drawings that Half and Associates prepared trying to vie for the job of being the consultant selected. They wanted to show their capabilities, and they drew some sketches based upon aerial photographs of what can physically be fit there. These aren't plans. This is not the conceptual plan. It's not worth $13,000. It would be much the same as if I was vying for a job with you to be your contractor and walking through your house or walking through your yard and drawing up some sketches and say, hey, what do you think if you looked at your property like this, or would you consider making these changes, in hopes to get hired by you to do a project. It's not the project. They drew some sketches for us for free to say, have you thought about this, and look at what our capabilities are in order to achieve this. So FDEDC, based upon their own experience that they got the $3+ million for downtown, said, hey, why not? Let's do this for KFB as well. There are members of KFB here this evening that can speak to this. There's, as well as the FDEDC, that can speak to this. If the president, Rebecca Hillenberg, would like to say a few words, we would welcome it. But again, no commitment has been made to pay anybody anything. No plan has been developed. What would be accomplished if this contract were approved and paid for by FDEDC would be public input to develop a plan. And if the public doesn't want to...
How would that public input come in to develop the plan? Regardless if FDEDC pays for it or if the funds go through what I believe should be the Parks and Recs department, because this is Parks and Rec property. But how do they formulate a plan and get a plan out to the public so they can all put their input in it? I know that the FDEDC went out with the Griffith plan, and then they were able to pull a $115,000 plan. They've got a good blueprint. They know what they're doing downtown. I just don't really know how this concept comes together for a plan.
The way they did it was through town hall meetings. They have 5 stakeholder town hall meetings.
Correct.
Lauren Griffith and Associates.
Yes, sorry.
Hang on a second. Lauren Griffith and Associates had 5, I think, at
Correct.
the library. Advertised, please come, give us your suggestions. That's the best bullet on that slide, is concept plan to be developed based on citizen input.
Well, we're taking a step further from the Lauren Griffith plan in that we're offering folks the opportunity to comment online, to give their ideas online. So in addition to coming to a town hall meeting at City Hall or at the library, they have the opportunity to take a survey online to say what they would like to see. And if they would like to see nothing done with it, that's perfectly okay. That's our right as citizens in this community.
Well, I'm way in favor of this because, like you said, the leverage that we gained when we put out when we paid for that Lauren Griffith plan, and if you say it was $115,000,
something like that.
It was $149,000.
$149,000. Man, that paid for itself in spades when we got a $3.5 million grant based on having basically shovel-ready a plan that here's what we would do if we got this grant. I think the same thing would happen here. I think we would be much more in line for these grants that come from various entities, the state being one, to put a plan in, to put something, make that parking lot better, make it better. Do something with resident input.
I have just some quick questions that maybe you can answer, Mo, if Rebecca Hellenberg wants to answer it. Is there a concern that Keep Friendswood Beautiful has approached them? I talked to Trey and maybe one other, and I think they've been approached also, being FDEDC, by other groups or nonprofits for them to fund their plans and maybe their items. Has that occurred where you've had other entities come up and
can y'all-
want?
Rebecca, so we get to the microphone.
And we have other members of
Yeah.
FDEDC.
They can all come up. It's fine with me.
come on up,
But
guys.
is that a concern of FDEDC? If you sit there and say, "Well, we're going to fund $13,500 worth of the possibility of doing a study," well, KFB came to us. Well, what if some other organization within some other committee or nonprofit that comes to you and says, "Hey, would you do our study too?" I mean, is that a concern?
As far as FDEDC, that has not been addressed. We take each thing that is brought to us as its own separate entity.
Has anyone brought anything?
No one has
Just
brought
just
anything
KFB.
else to us.
Uh-huh.
And we looked at this, help me, gentlemen, but in my opinion, and this is me speaking, I looked at it as a joint effort because we have the responsibility to improve downtown, that KFB brought to us as an opportunity to improve downtown. And this was a part that we could play in supporting that. And what Mo alluded to was when Ron Cox and Karen Capps went to TxDOT to plead for this other grant, they remembered our plan so well that they reached out to us and offered us that 3.2 million, I think it was 0.2 million, and we didn't even know it existed. And that was a big influencer, I think, for FDEDC to support KFB, that if our 13,500 could help benefit the improvements to Stevenson Park and to the downtown, which we are responsible for, then we wanted to be a team player and help them out.
I was listening to Dr. Pat McGinnis, and he mentioned that the Griffith plan really pulls y'all cohesively into keep y'all on target, to keep you on plan. I believe that you have somewhere in the neighborhood of $3.8 million project that's going on for FDEDC to fund, and we only have 2.2 million or 2.18 million? Or
yes,
something like
that,
So
that is all correct.
Right now, based on the plans that we have at FDEDC, we don't have the money. We don't have enough money to fund the projects that we have.
Well, and at the last meeting, we proposed that a plan or alternatives to our plan to do the whole strip be brought to us to perhaps do partial parts of it.
Right.
Perhaps the area around Spreading Oaks. Perhaps the area at one end or the other.
y'all
Go
are
as
trying
far
to
as we can.
figure out a way to scale that back to be able to fund it with the money that you do have.
Correct. The
So-
part that we can fund.
Yeah, so aren't you a little concerned that we don't have enough money to do the projects that we have, but we can reach into the same taxpayers' dollars and say, well, let's just spend this $13,500 over here for a plan that maybe, like I think, should be coming out of Parks and Rec. That's funded it to the tune of over $4 million or $4.8 million. And we amended it this year to $5.2 million for Parks and Rec.
To cover deferred maintenance items and contingencies, and we would have to
And
borrow
all the
from
other things that we can't afford to do in Parks and Rec. And we're talking about, I believe HAP said to build something like this would be $10 or $15 million.
And there was an estimate of that. But that was just a proposed idea.
Right.
He gave us more than one alternative in that. To address, we meet tomorrow afternoon.
I'll be there.
And good. And you will see in our minutes, or not in our minutes, but in the agenda that we are addressing this tomorrow afternoon as to what we can possibly do productively with our 2.2 million. We bring in, and correct me, Mo, if I'm wrong, but we bring in approximately $40,000 to $50,000 a month with our 1/8 of 1% that is allotted for FDEDC.
And y'all are doing great guns with it too.
Well, everybody's doing great guns.
I think y'all are doing a wonderful job. I'm proud of everybody on FDEDC and the work that's being done downtown.
Well,
but everybody's heard enough from me. If anybody else has any more questions, I don't want to hog all your time.
And I cannot speak for Paul and Bubba, who are also here. But for me, I was looking at it as an investment to the future, an investment to the opportunity to support another committee in Friendswood, to give them the opportunity that we got when we made the Griffith plan and it came out. That was part of my motivation. So I don't want to speak for you guys, but
and I think
anyway.
on top of that, Dr. Hillenberg, it's also worth the money to give the residents a chance to come out to what HAF will hold as town hall meetings and make their inputs known so that we don't hear, you never ask us what we want. Well, here is a chance for us to spend a little bit of money to give them an opportunity to come out. And like you said, it could leverage into a major grant that we could do something decent with. Steve Rocky.
Steve. Sorry.
Thank
How
you for
are
recognizing me.
Yeah, sorry.
Appreciate that.
I'm sorry to get
Wrong
so personal.
Board, though. He gets to do it.
Oh, okay.
I just want to kind of summarize a few things to make sure I understand it here. We're being asked for this $13,000 to to do the study, and as the mayor said, to get public input. No money has been spent so far, correct? That parking lot is dangerous as it currently is. And I hate to say it, but yours truly 2 years ago tripped over, and I think I still have a bruised knee because it's got all sorts of rises and all that. So something clearly could be done to that to make it better looking, to make it more effective for parking, make it more flexible for all sorts of events. So as I understand it, that's all we're being asked for is this company is going to help us present a plan, but that our experience has been when we have a plan, we can go get other money. Okay. Finally, whatever plan is decided or recommended or however it comes, it's going to have to be approved up here. Sure. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, and tacking off of the mayor's point earlier, I read the social media. I'm really tired of people making up stories about people who just spend their time volunteering for this city. It's very easy to correct answers, and impugning people simply because they're volunteering and helping on something is not Friendswoodian, my opinion.
Thank you. Well,
Councilmember Hanks.
I'm sorry.
So, thank you, Dr. Hillenberg, for coming in, all of the FDDC and KFB. So I think of KFB, I got to be their liaison one year, all of the different projects that they do in this community. And the medians downtown were also spearheaded by a grant that KFB wrote for and got. And so this is all, I think, synergism, synergy together, working together. And we appoint the FDEDC. Yes. And FDEDC has been very frugal, very intentional, and they've met for years developing the plan and getting the money together. So it's pay as you go. We've given them this appointment, and they're saying, hey, we want to support this other committee who's invested a lot. And by the way, it's not just the grants that KFB writes for, but it's all the things that they do, man hours too. And they're of a diverse group of people, not politically motivated, different age groups from all over the community. So I think, all of this is a good thing. It was done well, and I support it.
Thank you. And could I invite the chairman of KFB to come up here with me, please? I didn't mean to exclude you or KFB because you've been doing great things and very supportive of FDEDC. Thank you. Hi. So,
who's in charge of this meeting, Dr. Hillenberg?
Point of order. He's the only one that can ask other people to come up.
Mayor, I'm so glad you pointed that out, and I will be happy to ask for forgiveness. But sometimes you do things and then ask for forgiveness.
Not me.
Anyway, so do you want to add anything to what I have said? Or
I'm the chair. I'm Patty Steinke, and I want to thank all of the committee that came out tonight and had a few other members that did have to leave. But we're a great team. We work hard, and we do want to let you know that we will be pulling the community in. We work with the community on everything, and we're excited to hear from the community on what they want to see happen in the parking lot.
Thanks, Patty. We appreciate all of what you guys do. And anyone else? No. Where are we?
Real quickly,
yes, sir.
Is there any of the park improvement bond money still available, or is that all expired or expended?
So past park bond issuances, so the 2013 bond program, that's all been expended. And as I've mentioned before, new construction has slowed down, so the park fund balance that developers pay as they develop new homes, that has since been depleted on projects within existing parks. So we would have to borrow from fund balance to pay for this.
The sidewalk fund that we forced people to pay into for perpetuity. Is there no money there?
It was one time, $13,000 one-time payment. You may recall 4 council meetings back, y'all authorized those funds to be used for sidewalk installations where the sidewalks were missing. Now, as I mentioned before, if you don't want to spend FDEDC funds or authorize FDEDC to spend these funds, we can borrow from fund balance, which is 1.15 million over the 90-day reserve. But the reason I'm suggesting,
my concern with this is that this time it's, you know, I believe me, I think something needs to be done.
I do too.
Without question. I mean, it needs to be improved. It's an eyesore, right? It truly is.
It's also a safety issue. I'm one of the ones who brought up that it's a safety issue. What's going on everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's been there ever since we tore down the fire station. But it needs to be improved, and I don't think there's any member up here that would disagree with that, or probably any member in viewing this that would do that. My concern is that, you know, FDEDC is picking this, you know, to partner with this group this time, and then, you know, maybe some other groups like, well, hey, yeah, you know, we can partner with them, and maybe they'll pick us, and then maybe they'll pick us, and then this starts a precedence. And I'm concerned about the precedence that this would set.
Sure.
Not anything else. Believe me. I mean, if I had the spare $13,000, I'd pay for it myself to get the dang thing improved. It absolutely needs to be improved. I just don't think that this is the method that we should be, the path that we should be going down with FDEDC. And that's just my opinion.
and understand, going back to the earlier budget discussion, the only way we've been able to be as successful as we've been with the frugality that we've implemented is utilizing funds that can't be utilized for anything else. So yes, we can pay for this out of fund balance, out of the money that was generated by property taxes, but that's a depleting revenue stream right now, as you heard. If FDEDC doesn't make this purchase, those funds don't roll into fund balance. Those funds just get set aside and can't be spent on anything else. So other organizations, if they wanted to approach the city and do a project on FDEDC, it would have to be in downtown, and it would have to meet the minimum tenants that were authorized in the 2016 election. So so they can't go out and say on 528 we want to do another project.
I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just suggesting that this sets a precedence, and that concerns me. That's all.
Sir.
But again, in no way, shape, or form do I not think that thing needs to be fixed up. It absolutely has got to get fixed up
I agree
in the next several years.
Yep.
Right? For the safety concerns or whatever else. I just think it sets a bad precedence. That's why I won't support it.
I think they have a plan, and it's costing way more than they have right now, and then they'll eventually get there with the Griffith plan, and I would like to see them stay focused on that.
I think we would have to find a different revenue stream.
I think so too. But
That's my opinion. We're going to vote. I'm likely going to lose, but that's my opinion.
I am ready to vote.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
Go for it, Brent.
How long does that grant stay like floating out there? I know at the retreat y'all mentioned, I think Mayor, you had said something about if that grant, we didn't do anything with it and it expires. How long do we have to exercise the grant?
So the grant's going to be expended. You're going to see the entryway sign into Stevenson Park. It just what's behind the entryway sign is going to either stay the same, and it likely, regardless of whether or not you fund the conceptual plan, it's going to look like what it looks like today for the next 5 to 10 years, presumably, depending on success rate of grant opportunities or another bond election.
No doubt.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Miss Lady?
I have a first from Councilman Rocky and a second from Councilman Friendswood.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Item H, consider the election of the mayor pro tem. Councilmember Rocky, do you have something?
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion, and can I make an explanation of this for the audience before?
Yes, please.
Well, let's get a second first.
I will second.
Okay.
You didn't make the motion with the.
You didn't make a motion yet.
I did. I'm sorry. We're going to make a motion to have Councilman Aaron. What?
Mr. Roberts rules.
We're going to make a motion to have Councilman Aaron Wirt. All right, you guys going to let me talk? All right, thanks.
I was going to let the room clear.
We'd like to make a motion that Councilman Aaron Wirt be appointed to Mayor Pro Tem for the next year.
I'll second.
Okay. Now, I'd like to explain that it's been 5 or 6 years. We've kind of come up with a rule of thumb to, avoid inviting that we rotate it every year. And our rule is that the most senior person who hasn't done it gets to do it for a year. And Brent, congratulations. You are the most senior person up here who hasn't done it. And so with great pleasure, I'd like to, see Brent become our mayor pro tem.
All in favor?
You can vote for yourself.
There's no financial income involved with just more work. Item I, consider appointing Glenn Grayban, Jason Byers, and Michael Fernandez as regular members and Megan McKay as an alternate member to the Construction Board and Adjustment and Appeals for the 3-year term beginning immediately and ending June 30th, 2025.
Second.
Councilmember Scott, Councilmember Rocky, all in favor? Item J, consider appointing Joe Matranga, Brian Bounds, and Marcus Rives to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a 3-year term set to begin immediately and expire on June 30th, 2025.
Motion to.
Second.
Okay.
Did you get that, Letty?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. All in favor? Turn the page. Consider appointing Patrick McGinnis, Rebecca Hillenberg, Ron Cox, and Alton Todd to the Friendswood Downtown Economic Development Corporation for a 2-year term beginning immediately and ending June 30th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
It was a dead heat. I'll give it to Robert and Sally as a second.
Who's ever loudest?
Whoever's loudest, yeah, usually you. All in favor? Motion passes. Consider appointing Diane Freeman, Kathy Molinaro, Nita Jambakar, JoBeth Brizendine, Bennett Rowley, and Maddie Short to the Friendswood Public Library Advisory Board for a 3-year term beginning immediately and ending June 30th, 2025. Do I have a motion? Steve Rocky.
Second.
You have a second over here? All in favor? Consider appointing Susan Ozamikis and Pauline Moore to the Community and Economic Development Committee for a 3-year term beginning immediately and ending June 30th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Sally, did somebody down there? Sally and Trish?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Motion passes. Proposed resolutions and ordinances, item 10A, consider the first and final reading of an ordinance amending the city's general budget for fiscal year 2021-2022 by approving Budget Amendment 10 and providing for a supplemental appropriation and/or transfer of certain funds. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Councilmember Scott, Councilmember Griffon, all in favor?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Item 12, executive session, will now recess into and convene in an executive session pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code to seek the advice of city's attorneys regarding the following. Number 1, City of Friendswood versus Tostado in the Court of Appeals of Texas, Houston, 1st District. Number 2, class action settlement of City of Long Beach et al. Versus Monsanto Company et al. In the U.S. District Court, Central District of California, Western District. Item 3, class action settlement of in RE capacitors antitrust litigation in the United States District Court, Northern District of California. And item 4, class action litigation B&R Supermarket Inc. et al. Versus Visa Incorporated et al. In the U.S. District Court, Eastern Division of New York. All right. Item 13, action items related to executive sessions. A, consider a resolution approving a notice of intention to opt out of the class action settlement of city. I now reconvene our open meeting, the Friendswood City Council, and announce that in accordance with section 551.102 of Texas Government Code, no action was taken in executive session. We now move on to item 13A. Sorry about that. Not too smart, but I am trainable. Okay. Consider a resolution approving a notice of intention to opt out of the class action settlement of City of Long Beach et al. Versus Monsanto Company et al. In the U.S. District Court, Central District of California, Western District, and directing the city attorney to file the same with the class action settlement administrator. I need a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and a second.
Just real quick, as you know, in a class action lawsuit, it's nothing that the city has done to affirmatively be a part of this lawsuit. It's establishment of a class, and then the city has the option to remain in the class or opt out of the class or file objections concerning any settlement in the case.
Thank you, Counselor. All in favor? We're opted out. Item B, consider a resolution approving a notice of intention to opt out of the class action settlement of INRI capacitors antitrust litigation in the United States District Court, Northern District, California, and directing the city attorney to file the same with the class action settlement administrator.
Motion to approve.
Robert and Brent. All in favor? Opt out. Opt out. What's wrong with you? Consider a resolution approving a notice of intention to opt out of the class action litigation B&R Supermarket, Inc. et al. Versus Visa, Inc. et al. In the U.S. District Court, Eastern Division of New York.
Motion to
directing
approve.
the city attorney to file the same with the class action settlement administrator, John Scott and Robert.
Second.
All in favor? According to my thing, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We've been all in favor of adjourning. Apparently, we're
Changed the rules. This is the first time in 11 years.
I know we're Robert's rules